We be live. We're going to be discussing the news. We have 10 news items like every week. We had Rivka with us here just a second ago, and her connection just went down right as we went live. So once she makes her connections, her connection is better, we'll bring her back up. Okay. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. Again, our blasphemous art is gorgeous. We have the sexiest, juiciest, beautiful, like we make Muhammad, Jesus, Mother Mary, Hindu gods and goddesses. We just reimagine them in the most sexiest, glorious, beautiful way. And we make it available to our newsletter subscribers for free. So if you're subscribed to our newsletter, you're getting those. We also have comics that we're sending out for free to our newsletter subscribers. Link in the description. Subscribe to our newsletter. Get on that. Anyways, I see everybody in live chat. Make sure you keep posting and commenting, and we'll try to highlight your comments as we discuss the news. Can we clap for the first news, Susanna?
It is something we would both vehemently oppose, but let us clap because it is the first news, and I'm excited.
Okay, no, the rule is if it's not a tragedy, we can clap.
I feel like it's a little bit of a tragedy, but
Did anyone die?
No.
First news.
First news. United Nations elects Iran to Commission on Women's Rights this week, and how the hell did this happen? On April 20th, the United Nations elected Iran to a 4-year term on its Committee on the Status of Women. The UN Watch is calling on U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield and the EU states to condemn the UN's decision. Though the ballot was secret, UN Watch has determined that at least 4 of the 15 EU and Western group democracies on the ECOSOC voted in favor of Iran. UN Watch asked lawmakers to demand that their governments reveal how they voted. Iranian women's rights activist Masih Alinejad stated via Twitter that electing Iran to advocate for women's rights is, quote, surreal. She went on to elaborate on the fact that Iran is a country that treats women as second-class citizens. According to the UN, Iran will play an instrumental role in promoting women's rights and documenting the reality of women's lives throughout the world. The UN's decision to elect Iran sparked outrage among human rights activists. Hillel Noor, executive director of UN Watch, compared electing Iran for advocating women's rights with making an arsonist into the town fire chief.
Is there any... Let's try to be... I know it's hard, okay? Let's try to do a steelman or devil's advocate or whatever you want to call it. Have they given us any reason for why they have done this? Like, is there any argument in their favor? I know it's a dumb question, but let's just ask it anyways. Have they provided, Susanna?
I can't think of any good reasons.
All right, let me try. Okay. Maybe it's kind of like an encouragement that you don't deserve this, but maybe if you highlight you get your act together. How about that? Like, I'm really trying to be charitable here, okay? I know they don't deserve this level of charitability. I'm just trying to come up with the best excuse possible. Maybe like, you guys suck at this, at women's rights, but maybe if we put you in the front seat and everyone is looking at you, then maybe that's gonna... I'm not saying it's gonna work. I'm just trying to come up with the least dumb explanation possible. Is that an excuse?
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, oh, almost a participation trophy. Goddess Katie is saying this is the UN's version of, quote, he will become responsible once he gets married and becomes a father. Katie, that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, Rivka?
Rivka. Let me unmute her.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know if we talked about this or not because my internet, but did you discuss the countries that actually voted for Iran? One of them was the United States.
Armin, you're muted.
Wasn't it anonymous?
UN Watch has determined that at least 4 of the 15 EU and Western group democracies, which include, okay, sorry, I take it back.
Yeah, it's anonymous.
4 out of those 15, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, but UN Watch is calling on lawmakers to demand their governments reveal how they voted.
Yeah, this is the big part of the news is like people are like, okay, who voted for this? And the problem is that you can't hold any of these countries responsible because we just know how many people voted, how many countries voted to accept this, but we don't know which countries, right? So it's really hard to go and say like, oh, United States, oh, UK, like, why did you do this? Because the vote was anonymous. And UN Watch is like, you guys have to, which countries were special enough to come to vote for this? We need to know, like, we really need to know who voted for this. So UN Watch is demanding transparency here.
Apparently, when they had the secret ballot in 2000, they're all secret ballot, but 2017, and the UN Women's Rights Commission and Saudi Arabia, the Belgians admitted that they voted for Saudi Arabia, and apparently some of this happened. They found it out because the Belgians revealed it to the Saudis, like, "Hey guys, we voted for you."
This is back when so that was a separate vote because Rivka, some people might just let me finish. Some people might not know what you're referring to. UN like does ridiculous things like this. They have a history of this because they also a couple of years ago put Saudi Arabia at the head of the Human Rights Council, right, in the UN. So Saudi Arabia for the head of human rights and Iran for women's rights. Amazing. But maybe the United Nations is like trolling the world, or like, hey, you guys thought that was ridiculous. Yeah, hold my beer. We could top that up.
Well, the Saudis were put on this same committee in 2017, this UN Women's Rights Commission, and the UN Watch are the people who campaign led to Belgium admitting this. So it's not just that they were on the human rights in general, but they were on specifically women. And so maybe the UN Watch will be able to get some to reveal it because they got the Belgians too.
Susanna?
So it's really interesting though. So although we don't know who has voted in favor of Iran being elected to this committee, the UN Watch has come out very strongly against the US and the Biden administration, putting out some tweets like, quote, highlighting a news article. So it's highlighting this news article and says, how the United States in 2010 blocked the Iranian regime from gaining a seat on the UN women's rights body and how they failed to do so in 2021. Worse, the U.S. now won't even make a simple and direct condemnation of Iran's election to the U.S. Commission on the Status of Women. And then the executive director continues. Secretary Antony Blinken, I'm shocked at the U.S. change in position. In 2010, the U.S. mobilized to find a candidate that defeated Iran at UN Women. In 2014, the U.S. condemned Iran's whim at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women as an outrage. Now you didn't even try to defeat Iran, and astonishingly, you refused to condemn its win. In a statement below to Voice of America and at the press briefing, the Biden administration pointedly refused to give a simple and direct condemnation of Iran's election to this commission. Instead, it's embarrassingly vague and indirect.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. Well, do we know if United States voted? Just a yes or no before I continue. I just need a yes or no. Do we know if United States voted for this?
I don't know.
We don't know. Okay. Right now, United States is in the middle of negotiations with Iran when it comes to the going back to the nuclear deal. And I don't know how it's going to turn out, but as of right now, United States is pressuring to make human rights a major part of the negotiation. I don't know if they're going to get that. I don't know if that's going to end up being part of the final deal or not. But I don't think it's fair to, like, the current Biden administration is really making human rights a major part of the deal, trying to at least make human rights a major part of the deal in the negotiations that are having. And right now, the human rights is actually one of the major stumbling blocks for why the deal is not going through, right? Like, eventually it will go through and we don't know who's going to win. I hope they don't soften on that. They might. And if they do, we're going to come here and criticize them for that. But as of right now, because those deals are happening, you don't want to basically, if you're pressuring them over there and you're also going to pressure them over here, the effect that it might have on those deals, we don't know what's happening in the background. So I don't know if it's fair with the amount of knowledge that we have right now to criticize the Biden administration. We might be able to criticize them more strongly in a couple of weeks from now. So I don't know if it's fair to, and also we don't know how the United States voted because it was anonymous. Rivka, you want to say something?
Apparently the United States forced the vote, though, but they won't condemn the win, so to speak, by Iran. But the thing that is also very distressing to me is that there were 54 nation economic and social council which voted by this secret ballot, and Iran won 43 out of the 54 votes. That's huge. That's way more than just squeaking by. That's almost unanimous.
Yeah, I don't understand though, because guys, I know people want to pretend that the people in the UN are idiots. Because you are idiots, because you just want to go with this, because you want to just go with the simple explanation and make yourself feel like you understand how world politics works. I do want to understand why. Like, this is such a slap in the face to all the women rights activists in Iran, and also the Iranian women's rights activists outside of Iran. Like, this is the opposite of what they want. They want more pressure. They don't want rewarding the Islamic Republic. They want to, they want penalties. They want the Islamic Republic to feel pressure for their women's rights. So, but it cannot be, and it's a bad decision, but there must be something. Like, it cannot be based on nothing. Like, what was their motivation? Like, and even if we want to be charitable and say, like, maybe they're doing this just to motivate them because they're putting them at a position where everybody's going to notice them and put more pressure on them. And again, this is a dumb excuse, but it's the most charitable one, I guess. Even in that situation, like, is UN trying to lose credibility? How do they not have experience with how the world reacted when they put Saudi Arabia at the head of human rights? Like, do they not care about their credibility? Like, even if their goals are like, they did calculations and they're like, you know what, we don't care what the people say, based on our analysis, this is the right way to move forward. Like, is your credibility and your image and how this decision is going to be perceived by the world, is that not part of your calculation? Does that not matter at all? Like, does the UN's budget and how much each country contributes to them not get affected but the way that the citizens of the contributing countries see the United Nations, like have they maybe they have looked at the previous years and were like, oh yeah, people hate us, but apparently that doesn't change how much each government is contributing to us. So maybe that's why they don't care about their image. I don't understand, but it can't be more. It can't be, oh, they're just dumb. Like, this is such a simplistic explanation. Oh yeah, they're idiots. Like, no, you're an idiot if you think that's the only explanation, right? Like, because people like simple answers. Rivka.
So part of the issue is a lot of times when they have these votes, people run unopposed. So Iran, ran unopposed. This has happened before. There's no one to vote for instead. And I know that the United States brought that up. And then also, if you look at some of the questions that UN Watch asked, I mean, they kept asking over and over again, did you vote? Are you against them being on it? And finally, Mr. Price, who was the United States spokesperson on this, said, with response to what you were saying, like, they think that the member should reflect the values underlying the commission, which would be the Human Rights Commission. So he's saying there that he believes the member should reflect those values, but that wasn't until after, being asked over and over and over again. But he is saying what you said, Armin, that it should reflect that.
Okay, Susanna?
They were still condemned very strongly because they didn't even mention Iran by name. And one of the reasons why the UN Watch is criticizing the US so heavily is because, yes, it does heavily depend on who runs and, whose seat is contested, but that it's not reflective of their actions in 2010, where it was a similar situation, and they recruited candidates to oppose this appointment, and they were successful in that effort, and they got East Timor to step up and be elected instead, or stepped forward to contest that election, because they do it regionally, so it has to be within a region, and so they have to recruit candidates within that region. And so to people like those who do work at the UN Watch, in their opinion, the US did zero in comparison to the many efforts, like weeks of efforts that they made to make sure that this didn't happen in 2010.
Exactly. All they did was force the vote, but it's uncontested. And they also are definitely kind of, I don't know if obfuscating is the right word, because we don't know if they're lying, but they're definitely dancing around the question directed at them from UN Watch. Like, so do you agree or do you not agree with them being on here? Did you vote for them or did you not? And they really won't say much on that.
All right, I think we should move on. Can we clap for the next news?
No.
Oh, no. Next news.
Okay. Next news. 2 Iranians handed death sentences for insulting Muhammad. On April 22nd, the human rights activist news agency reported that 2 Iranian men had been sentenced to death for allegedly mocking the Prophet Muhammad. They were arrested and put into prison in Arak, the capital of Markazi province, in May 2020. One of the 2 men, Yusuf Murdad, father of 3, was reportedly held in solitary confinement for 2 months following his arrest. In its annual report of the death penalty published earlier this week, Amnesty International reported that at least 246 people were executed by the Iranian government in 2020 alone, making Iran one of the world's top executioners, second only to China. Even though recorded executions in Iran continued to be lower than in previous years, the country has increasingly used the death penalty as a weapon against political repression and dissidents, protesters, and members of ethnic minority groups.
Second only to China, only based on total numbers, right? On a per capita basis, Iran is number 1 when it comes to executions.
Yeah,
I'm assuming. Yeah, okay. Most of those executions are drug related, also, I think.
I don't know.
I think most of them are drug related. But yeah, but this the number you gave, how many? You mentioned a number about last year. How many were executed for?
246.
For it doesn't say for what, right?
No, just in total.
Yeah, that's insane. And also, I just want to remind you, as you can see in the picture, it's not just that they're death sentences; it's that they're torture kills. You know what I mean? Like, for example, in the United States, when they kill people, I mean, I'm against the death penalty anywhere. Okay, but in Iran, the way they kill is so. I don't understand. Here's what I can tell you. Okay, Iranian death sentences are worse than Islam. Okay, let me say that again. Okay, you say, oh, this is bad because of Islam. Okay, actually, I can't believe it, but I mean, it's hard to imagine this, but the Islamic Republic of Iran has managed to be worse than Islam, because in Islam, death sentences are carried out with beheading with a sword, which is an instant death. Okay, for some reason, and I don't know what, maybe somebody could educate me on this. In Iran, the way death sentences are carried out is by hanging, but not the way it was being done in the Wild Wild West. But that was more humane, because the way that they used to hang people, is they will put the rope around your neck and they will drop you so your neck breaks and you die. For some reason, and I think it's because of fear, spreading fear and dissuading people or something like that. Maybe that's the reason. In Iran, they don't do that. They put the rope around your neck and they lift you. They lift you. That means that your neck doesn't break. That means you suffocate slowly. There are people who've been, we have reports of people who were hanged for being gay in Iran. And some people, like, I don't remember exactly, but some of them stayed alive up there for a long time. There are people who chewed out their own tongues from the pressure. They chewed it out. They ate their own tongues while hanging there. This is insane. When it comes to death sentences, Iran is way worse than Saudi Arabia. Way worse than Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia does it the Islamic way, which is chop your head off, which is far less painful. I mean, it's no pain compared to the way Iran does it. So as bad as Islam is, the Islamic Republic of Iran managed to become more inhumane than Islam, which is amazing. Unbelievable. This is the 21st century. I don't understand how we allow this. I don't understand how we allow this. Do you guys want to add anything to this?
I mean, it's obviously horrible. I am looking for more information about these two individuals, but I'm really frustrated I can't find a source that I was able to find earlier. But to my knowledge, it's been a while since someone has been handed a death sentence for blasphemy. Based on my familiarity, let me be clear. And I mean, there just really isn't that much to say. It breaks my heart.
For insulting the Prophet, literally, for something that nobody is harmed by. Rivka?
So there's also all these charges against Youssef Medrad. Supposedly he's spreading propaganda against the state, insulting the founder, insulting the supreme leader. So and I can't say for sure, I don't know, but it gives kind of the air of being politically motivated, more so even maybe than, actually insulting. Like, that's just added on top of all these charges, and And so it's possible that there's some political motivation because, opposition group or just simply speaking bad about the supreme leader. So it's possible. And I know that they do use the death penalty as political repression, against dissidents, members of ethnic minorities, protesters. So this could be part of that. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of information about the other guy who, according to his name's Saeed, and he's got several names after that. Too much information about him at all, just that he was a cabinet maker before he was arrested. That's all I've been able to really find, like nothing else about other charges or anything. But absolutely agreeing with you. I mean, I can't believe that it's the 21st century that this is happening.
Marcia is saying something that I very much disagree with. It's Armin killing in the name of non-existent myths is insane, irrelevant of the means of death. I say? First of all, did I say that it's not insane if it was done in a different way? Okay, did I say that? No, I did not say that, Marcia. But no, the means of death is important. If you care about people suffering, just because they're all insane, that doesn't mean you can't condemn one more than the other. Just because something is horrible, it doesn't mean that it can get worse. Stop thinking in black and white. Okay. No, yes, it's definitely all of them are insane for killing it. All deaths, I'm against every single death sentence, even the ones that are based on crimes that are actually harm people. But obviously, some of them can be worse than the other. Hanging somebody and torturing them before they die is worse than beheading them. That's true. That's if you are a utilitarian, that's objectively true. Like, I don't know how you could argue with that. Oh, no, they're all equal. No, they're not all equal. Some of them are worse. So just a reminder, Susanna, do we know when this is supposed to be carried out?
No, I haven't been able to find that in English news. There's a lot
so just
more
to be clear, these people are alive right now, okay? Okay? And if you're one of those morons who think that putting pressure on Iran is not going to have an impact, then you're useless. You're useless. Get the hell out of here, okay? Because we have records, we have a history, we know it does, right? So this news needs to be shared. More people need to know about this. Is there a campaign?
Not that I'm aware of yet.
There needs to be a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be pressure, okay? Because TikTok, I guess, these people are on death row now. And we need to use this case. This is actually the perfect time to put pressure on Iran because they are going through they are trying to get United States and other countries to accept the nuclear deal. We need to be like, hold up, maybe not. Wait a second. Maybe this is on purpose. I don't know. I'm just coming up with some conspiracy theories right now. I don't know. One hypothesis could be right now the hardliners in Iran don't want the deal to go through. And given that the reason why some people, some Western countries are saying that the deal is being held back, some major sticking points that is making the deal less easy to go through is Iran's human rights. Mm-hmm. Maybe the hardliners you just said, Susanna, that there hasn't been any death sentences for blasphemy in Iran for a while.
That I'm aware of.
Yeah, there hasn't been. Sohail Arabi has been on death row for many years, and he hasn't been executed, right?
Well, his death sentence was commuted.
I know. He went back. It was commuted, then it was back on, and then it was removed again, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like this is like some people think that this is something that happens in Iran every Tuesday. It's not. These things are not as common as you think, okay? This is a major news in Iran, okay? Yeah, and most of the death sentences are drug related, not blasphemy related. So this is a major news right now. And one conspiracy theory, which I have no proof of, so don't take it with a grain of salt, this is just a hypothesis, is this might be the hardliners' way of making the Iran's human rights record even worse, so that the people who are pressuring United States to not go through a deal with Iran because of its poor human rights record, or to make it more difficult for Iran to go through a deal with them, they're basically trying to give them something to, the activists who are pressuring the United States not to go through a deal. Maybe the hardliners are giving them something to work with. So I don't know. Maybe this might be a conspiracy. I don't know. Anybody, Qasim, any Iranians in the live chat want to have any views on this?
Qasim had something that he was saying in Farsi.
Well, speak English, guys. This is an English. Oh, here. Katie is saying, if I remember correctly, Iran did stop an execution due to an online campaign. Yes. And an Atheist Republic even reported on that. Yes, both Iran. A lot of people think that the Islamic Republic of Iran and Saudi Arabia's government, that they don't care about their international image. You're an idiot if you think that. They do care about that, and that's why public pressure does work sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time. People are like, oh, it doesn't work. Online campaigns doesn't work. No, it sometimes works. Very few times, but it does work sometimes. And I give it, even if it works 5% of the time or even 1% of the time, the cost associated with signing these online campaigns is like zero to you. So we might as well do it. 1% of the time, saving somebody from execution is worth the try. It's worth the try, right? Anything else do you guys want to add or highlight while I grab the next news?
Not in the live chat.
Not in the live chat. Okay. Any thoughts on the theory and the hypothesis I had? Maybe. Oh, here, Qasim says something. We have had this topic yesterday. As Ali Reza said, just do something for these two guys. Be active. Yeah, guys, you know what? Share this video to get this news out. And if somebody starts a campaign on this, we will add the link to that campaign at the top of the description to this video. Okay? And if nobody does that, we might have to start it on our own. Like, no, actually, no, we shouldn't. We should have like somebody, because if Atheist Republic is having a campaign, it might actually hurt their cause rather than help it, right? If the brand Atheist Republic is the part of the campaign, no, we're not going to start it. It needs to be like a human rights organization or something. I'm surprised that no human rights organization has started a campaign on this already. Somebody needs to get on this, right? And as soon as they get on it, we're gonna, or if somebody, maybe they're waiting for more clarification to make sure that this is not fake news or something, right? Because sometimes that happens. But if there is a campaign, we will get the link. We will put it at the top of this description of this video. So share this video, please. All right. You blocked somebody?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Can we clap for the next news at least? No. Next news.
Next news. Kuwaiti woman killed after refusing marriage proposal. A Kuwaiti woman was recently murdered after she refused a marriage proposal. A man in relation to the murder was arrested, but he was released on bail. The woman's identity has not been revealed to the public thus far. She had previously reported to authorities that the man had threatened her life after her family refused his marriage proposal. Months after the report, the suspect carried out the crime. He kidnapped the woman along with her children, and in the process rammed his car into the victim's sister's car. The man has been identified as Fahad Subhi Mohammed by social media users. In recent months, this is the latest case of abuse being highlighted by abuse against women being highlighted in the Gulf state.
And they released them?
On bail, yeah.
Is that normal to do that? Like when somebody has killed? Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know how the law works.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, like here in the United States, Kyle Rittenhouse was released on bail. He bonded out.
Yeah, but that was the okay. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into that. Yeah, don't give me that example. We're gonna open a can of worms.
It's just the first thing I thought of.
It does happen if you can put up the money. I don't know what the percentage is in Kuwait, but in the United States it's 10%. So if you have someone who's willing to put the money up for you, then yeah, it can happen.
All right, here's the thing. How do we know if this has anything to do with Islam? I don't think so.
We don't know that.
Rivka.
I was just going to say, and this isn't in direct response to your question, but I actually know someone who had a similar, thankfully she wasn't killed, a similar incident for rejecting a proposal. She had her face slashed with the razor. So this is something that does happen. Now, this person wasn't in Kuwait, it was in Morocco, but so even in places that supposedly have the soft Islam like Morocco, I don't know if it has anything to do with Islam, but it seems like it's tangentially related in the sense of the position of women and the feeling that, men are in charge and that, all of those things. It may be related in that regard because of what happens in the culture as a result of some of these Islamic laws or sociocultural norms.
Maybe, but we don't know. I just think like as anti-religious atheist activists, a lot of our community is too fast into jumping like, oh, Islamic country, woman, something happened to a woman, this must be Islam. Like they just like assume it without knowing. I mean, okay, here's the thing. I'm not saying it's not Islam, because some Muslims might come and say, you know what, actually this is a sin in Islam. This is like definitely a sin in Islam. There's nothing within the Quran or the Hadith that justifies this, right? However, that doesn't mean that this is not because of Islam, because, for example, we know Christianity has an influence, for example, on like priests and, clergy or whatever, abusing children, even though there's nothing in the Bible that condones that, because we know that there's ways of indirectly religion being responsible for things. It creates a culture and an environment, like we already talked about this, and undeserved authority without any moral checks and background checks and expertise that in other environments you trust children with adults with, and the understand and having a license to sin because everything is forgiven through Jesus. So even if it's not directly within the teachings of religion can be indirectly responsible for the way some children or women are treated. Like, for example, we know honor killing is indirectly influenced by Islam, not because Islam allows it. It's honor killing is completely against Islamic teachings, right? Completely against Islamic teachings. But Islam is still responsible for honor killing because of the honor culture that it's responsible for, right? The purity culture that it's responsible for. So it is indirectly responsible for it, even though there is no direct teaching that condones it. However, when it comes to something like this we don't know. Right, like, and if you claim then you're full of crap. Like, unless you know something about the details about the story that, like, that we don't know. Like, did maybe the man left a note somewhere saying like, oh, something Islamic, I don't know, something about the man's motivations that we don't know. But if you just like, oh, Kuwait, or like Kuwait, Islamic country, woman. Oh, woman means Islam is anti-woman. Oh, killed. Oh, okay. Islam, woman is victim of Islam because Kuwait is Islamic country. Like, if that's the way you think, then you're a moron. Your way of thinking is way too simplistic. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. So, no, yeah. Susanna, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how cases like this and a couple of other really tragic cases that have happened in Kuwait fairly recently throughout the past year have highlighted a lot of it sparked a heightened protest against domestic violence, against the abuse of women, against honor crimes, honor-based violence. And a lot of it is protesting against how it's not taken very seriously, how it's not punished as thoroughly as it should be punished, and how let me make sure I get this correct. There's been an ongoing campaign to overturn part of the penal code that allows men reduced sentences for killing women found in the act of adultery. So, like, the fact that part of the penal code allows men more freedom or less consequences for murdering a woman simply because she was allegedly found in the act of adultery, like, tells you a lot of what you need to know about the judicial system and the general culture with which these women are living in.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. For example, in Iran, honor killing your own daughter, the consequences for that is way, way less than killing your own son, right? So again, Islam doesn't teach you that it's okay to kill your daughter. Islam says that it's a sin to kill your daughter, but also Islam is also responsible for the double standard in the justice system. Killing your daughter is less of a crime than killing your own son, right? So Islam could, again, so some Muslims like come and say like, no, this is not Islam because Islam doesn't allow this. Yeah, true. However, indirectly, because of a different standards in the justice system, it might allow this because the father might do a calculation of like, well, my family, like the honor of my family has been ruined. I need to clean this up. And 2 years in jail doesn't seem that much of a price. So that might be part of the calculation, even though Islam doesn't allow it, right? I mean, and also the whole idea of a woman being worth half of a man is mathematically demonstrated in the Quran multiple times. Like, this is not something that you even need to go to hadith to figure out. This is within the Quran directly, like it's mathematically calculated. Like, it doesn't even hint to it. It directly says that in multiple ways. So that is definitely Islamic. It's funny, some people in the live chat think are so stupid. They think I'm defending Islam. Like, because I'm saying that this might not, we don't know enough to know that this is Islamic. They're like, oh, Armin, no, this is BS. Islam is really bad. Like, oh, really? You think so? Well, congratulations. Like, oh, my God damn it, you guys, some of you are morons.
No, I mean, literally, guys, he's just saying, like, that's not the sole influence on people's lives, right? Believe it or not, you can do things for other reasons. Like, you don't just plug in Quran and you're like, like, no.
Rivka.
And this is absolutely, and I think that's a really good point, Armin, because we don't know. And these kind of things happen all over the world, actually, in non-Islamic countries, where women are killed by their, lovers, their husbands, their suitors, some people that they don't even know sometimes, who are convinced that, they're in love with them. So it's not something specific only to an Islamic country. It's unfortunately a worldwide global phenomenon.
Right. So actually, Rivka, your point is very important, because seeing that it happens in other places doesn't mean that Islam doesn't have an influence, because we see honor killing happens under Islamic environments a lot more, right? But the mere fact that it does have crimes like this happens in other environments as well doesn't negate the fact that Islam doesn't have an influence, but it means that there must be crimes like this happening in Islamic countries that sometimes has nothing to do with Islam. Like, are people going to think like every single crime in an Islamic country is because of Islam? Like, when somebody robs a bank in an Islamic country, is it because of Islam? Like, do we think like when somebody robs a bank in the United States is because of Christianity? No, it might be, maybe, but it might be not. Like, somebody might be like, you know what, I'm a Christian, So I'm going to rob a bank, and I'm going to ask for forgiveness from Jesus, and then I'm going to be okay, right?
I'm
So
robbing this bank for Jesus.
Yeah, or that. Okay, but again, it might be. We're not saying it's not, and we're not saying that it is. But again, Islam has an influence, and that influence is always a negative. But we don't know if it was an influence here. Okay, so can we finally clap for some news? Or no, we can't. Never mind. Next news.
Indian atheist arrested in the United Arab Emirates for blasphemy against Islam. So, Dubai police have arrested an Indian immigrant, Abdul Kaider Puthiyangadi, on blasphemy charges. Abdul is from the Kasaragod district in Kerala, India. He is known to be a rationalist. A complaint was lodged against Kaider's anti-religious comments with the Dubai police. He was arrested on the alleged charges of trolling Islam, quote unquote, on social media. Zealots have made allegations against Abdul Kaider previously. The UAE government punishes blasphemy with several years in prison if convicted, and apostasy is punishable by death. In the case of non-citizens, they are often deported. Alternatively, he may face trial under Islamic law, which could result in a prison sentence. To support Abdul during this ordeal, freethinkers started a social media campaign called #StandUpWith Abdullah Kaider Puthiyangadi.
Okay, so his situation is worse because he's an Abdul and not a Arjun or something like that, right? Like he's he's Indian, but he wasn't like an ex-Hindu Indian. He's an ex-Muslim Indian, right?
Yes.
And
in the UAE, apostasy is punishable by death.
In UAE, guys, repeat that, please, because UAE is trying to act like it's part of the modern world now, and people could come because it's not, Sharia up the wazoo everywhere. But just remember, no, this is this UAE is like a backward, barbaric country that needs to be shamed for
by death. Apostasy is punishable by death, and UAE citizens are by default considered Muslim.
It's something so beautiful about somebody with the name Abdul from India blaspheming against Islam in the UAE. This is so, it just warms my heart in so many ways. But Rivka, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say, and this isn't specific to Abdul Khader himself, but the sentence that says the arrest was on the alleged charges of trolling Islam. Islam isn't a person that has its own accounts. It's an ideology. And so saying that, I think, shows you exactly the often perception that people have as that the ideology itself is either needs defended, or that just saying anything about it is either, Islamophobic is another one of the, that you're hurting people. But this doesn't even say this. This is talking about trolling Islam. Just that sentence itself is ridiculous. You can't troll something that, Islam isn't posting things. There's a person behind that. I know I'm not really going anywhere with that, but I'm bringing it up simply so people can see the level with which people are mentally doing gymnastics here.
Yeah, and Armin, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, so I actually found out about this news because some people reached out to us about it, and they gave me some more background information. Now, full asterisk disclosure, I haven't been able to independently verify this information, so we're all going to treat this with, a degree of skepticism. But according to these people who reached out to Atheist Republic, it was people from the Kerala Muslim community who are in Dubai that then complained to him at the police.
No.
That's what I have been told. I don't know if this is true.
If this is true, these are a bunch of hypocrites. Like, they managed to get this guy in trouble for something that is not a crime back in their own country. And yet here they're using the laws of an Islamic country to get their fellow countrymen in trouble for the things that they don't like that he's saying. Holy crap. These people are the scum of the world. Oh my God. God damn it. These people are garbage. God, if this is true. I don't know if it's true. How can we help him? Like, is this like, so what? Okay, so it's so great that he's not a UAE citizen. But imagine this. What does it say about the UAE and the value of your citizenship, where you make people happy that, oh my God, this is such a bad situation, but I'm so glad I'm not a citizen here because I would be in so much more trouble. You know, we like criticize Australia where the way that they treated Arak, because better countries, we criticize them for not defending their citizens enough, but barbaric Islamic countries like the UAE, we have to criticize them not because their citizenship doesn't protect you, but the citizenship could actually get you in more danger, not in less danger. Like, if you're an American citizen, you'll be like, oh, I know, like, if I get in trouble in this country, like, I have the United States coming out and trying to get me out of there, right? Better than Australia, because apparently Australia doesn't give a crap when you're in trouble in some other country as an ex-Muslim, right? But at least if you're an Australian citizen, at least the citizenship is not going to cause you more trouble. Because this man, if he was a UAE citizen, he would be facing the death penalty right now, right?
Well,
so if you're a UAE citizen, just remind yourself that news like this reminds people to be glad that they're not you. Your government is signaling to the world the worth of your citizenship is below zero. Is below zero. Like, we're happy that we're not a citizen of your crappy country. But go on, Susanna.
Oh shoot, where did it just go? So, like I said before, apostasy is a crime punishable by death in the UAE. Blasphemy is illegal, but expats involved, so that means like people who are living in the UAE but they're not citizens of the UAE, are involved in insulting Islam are punished by deportation. UAE incorporates hudud crimes of Sharia into its penal code, and apostasy being one of them. So therefore apostasy is punishable by death in the UAE. So what this means is, but this is what's not clear to me. So I was reading other things about the UAE where it's been established by a federal court that non-Muslims are not subject to Sharia law within the country. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out and the difference between him being a former Muslim versus him being a non-citizen.
Right. No. Okay. So
I'm unsure of how that's going to complicate his legal case, because he's not a citizen. He might just be deported, but because he was a Muslim, is the Sharia system going to be applied to him? I don't know.
No, they can't. They don't have jurisdiction over, like, the worst they could do to him is deport him. Like, they can't do anything beyond deporting him. He's not a citizen of that country. They don't have the rights to that. Like, this is like, there's no way they're gonna do anything beyond deporting him, right? But it's technically, like, you can't be like, in an Islamic country, if they say like, oh yeah, Sharia law doesn't apply to non-Muslims, like, oh, okay, great, I'm gonna leave Islam, so your Sharia doesn't apply to me anymore. Like, no. No, you don't understand. You were a Muslim when you left Islam, and the Sharia law does apply to you at the moment that you left Islam, and the punishment is death. So yeah. Rivka, did you want to say something? So Katie is saying yes, I heard the same. They used to threaten him in India too, but could only get him when he went to UAE. Yeah, so this guy was an atheist when he was in India as well, and he was getting threats by Indian Muslims. Apparently, allegedly, we don't know if this is true. We don't know if these are true. This is what we're hearing. So in India, there is technically, in Kerala at least, there is a blasphemy law, apparently, for Muslims, but it's not enforced. So
for everyone in India.
Yeah, technically, but Kerala doesn't enforce the blasphemy law, to my knowledge. Okay, so yes, the guy had to go to the UAE, and for people who are saying why did he people saying why did he go to UAE as an atheist and also criticizing Islam as well. I mean, to be fair, the worst that could happen to him is to get deported. Why not go to? Is he if you're worried about threats, he's getting threats in UAE and India at the same time. Why not go to the UAE if he wanted to, I don't know, get a job there or something? I mean, the guy is being true to his beliefs, so you can give him that. I don't see he wasn't taking that major of a risk in the UAE. But again, we have to recognize that UAE is trying to whitewash his image right now around the world. To act like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, Sharia doesn't apply to you if you come to UAE. This is just for we just treat our own citizens like crap. We value our non-citizens more than our own citizens. If you're not a citizen, you don't have to worry. We don't have to worry. We are such a garbage country that we feel like we could treat our own citizens like garbage, but we value the non-citizens here. Okay, so come here, feel safe. We're a modern, advanced country. Come give us your tourist money. I hope you guys care about your fellow human beings enough to see them as a backward, barbaric country, because the way they treat their own citizens, and that you are not only judging them based on how they treat tourists. Susanna?
Well, Katie's bringing up a good point in terms of why did he go? Lots of Indians go to Dubai for business purposes, especially Malaya people. Well, why am I echoing?
I don't know. Oh.
So what I was saying, he was South Indian. And then she continues, 60% or roughly 60% of the UAE population is South Asian, which I think is an important point, jumping on the back of what you were saying in terms of, they're okay. They only treat their own citizens like crap. Well, only 20% of the UAE's population is actually UAE citizens. Meaning the fact that their citizens are held to such a incredibly draconian standard isn't highlighted as much, given the fact that the actual citizens who are subject to this are a minority within the country.
Okay, I think that echo was from Rivka when she came back. So Rivka, make sure you mute yourself when you're not speaking. Anyways, Rivka wants to speak. Go ahead.
So I wanted to just address the question about why did he go? I feel like it seems like an unfair standard to put on people that they have to change what they say and do because they're afraid. He may have had reasons we don't know, but he still has the right to say what he thinks and to put that out on. So now, granted, there could be consequences based on, where you are and the society that you live in. But I really hesitate to question him as to why he went. He's free to move and go, and where he wants to go, but he's also this person who also has the right to say what he thinks, even if he is in a place that doesn't acknowledge that.
Rivka, I couldn't agree more. It's so frustrating because it's so easy for someone in complete security to go, oh, well, why did they go there? Why did they do this? Why did they criticize this? Blah, blah, blah. When they're not in that situation, it's just too easy and such a cop-out. I feel like, honestly, when you would be shocked at how easy it would be to find yourself in a similar situation. Like for something maybe you said like years ago, you travel to the wrong place and all of a sudden you're in really hot water, so yeah, that like criticism just really frustrates me.
All right, I can't clap for the next news either, I guess, huh?
No, it's good.
Kind of. It's kind of a good result.
Yeah.
Okay, next news.
Feds charge extremist Jewish sect with exploiting and kidnapping children. So shouts out to the U.S. feds for some justice.
Yay.
United States federal authorities filed charges of child exploitation and abduction against an extremist Jewish sect known as the Lev Tahor group, also known as the quote-unquote Jewish Taliban. The charges leveled against the 5 leaders within the Lev Tahor group were related to the forced marriage of the same child bride in 2017 and her kidnapping, along with her younger brother in 2018. These charges were announced by the FBI and an attorney for the Southern District of New York. The abducted children's mother managed to break free from the group after her brother forced her then 12-year-old daughter to marry an 18-year-old man of the community for procreation. Police said that the kidnappers led the children through several states with disguises until they ended up in Mexico. That is where the children were recovered and returned to New York within 3 weeks. Then Tevlahor tried to kidnap them again, twice. A Justice Department press release explains that child brides in the Lev Tahor community are forced to have sex with their husbands and lie about their marriage. As of 2017, members of the Lev Tahor group were living in Chiapas, Mexico.
Oh, wow. Rivka, do you know much about this group?
I had heard about them. I didn't know all the mishigas or crazy stuff that's going on with them to the degree that this is happening. I mean, Lev Tahor means pure heart. It's not been around that long. I think like late 70s or 80s was when it was started by a rabbi named Shlomo Helbrantz. He mysteriously drowned in Mexico. His son Nachman runs it. There's all kinds of allegations here that not just the kidnapping and the child marriage, there's been allegations of, forcing them to take antipsychotic drugs. There's been allegations of beatings, of, physical child abuse, of neglect, all kinds of things. Lev Tahor claims that they're persecuted. This was started in Israel, this group, and they have been on basically a world trek to get away from their supposed persecution for being I don't know if we're allowed to say this word, Z-ists, but because of the algorithm, but they've had these allegations following them wherever they go. They went to New York, they went to Canada, they went to Mexico, and these allegations of child abuse, of child marriage have been following them wherever they go. And I know that their leader got refugee status in Canada through some supposed not so truthful means. So it's really
insane.
Right. It's really crazy. And the other thing about them is the women wear like what basically could be a chador or an abaya, very similar to
this woman right here, if you look on my screen, it looks like she has a niqab on. Look at this little girl too.
Yeah.
See, look at
it. They don't wear it. They drop the cloth over their face. It's very similar to like
they don't even have the slit.
An abaya or a chador. But the thing that you need to know is like they put those on the girls starting at age 3.
That's insane.
And part of their breakaway from other Haredi sects is their extreme, even more so than other Haredi sects, focus on modesty. They themselves, one of the spokesmen says, that they want to go backwards. They think that this was the original Judaism, that it's purer, and that they're, of course, they're doing the right thing. And again, they say they're being persecuted, particularly by the government of Israel. I mean, there are stories of, infiltration, of Mossad, we're afraid of Mossad's going to shoot us, all these ridiculous allegations. Because as far as the being persecuted, there's many other sects who have I don't know. Am I allowed to say that word? Starts with a Z. I don't know what the rules are here.
I don't know what the rules are anymore either. So,
well, yeah,
I think you could say that one.
anti-Zionist. There are plenty others that are, and if people are wondering where that comes from, there are sects that believe that the state is illegitimate because there's no state of Israel without the Mashiach, the Messiah. Like only God can enter, start this. So, but yeah, they are also, I mean, they're transporting children across state and international borders to protect this, horrific child marriage that they do. And they're not that big of a group either. Also, it needs to be said, they're not that large. But they have very much influence over their followers. And the thing with the women too, their whole thing is just to prepare to be mothers, have a lot of kids. There's some women in that sect I read about that have 18 children.
Oh my God.
And they live in, like a 2-bedroom house kind of thing. So, and that was also part of the charges by the Quebecis was, just squalor, neglect. So they're really, really cultish, even more so, and very insular. And they're just, looking for a country that they can keep doing these horrific things in. And they just keep moving from one to the other.
Their women look like Chadori women in Iran.
It's wild. Yeah.
That's
Armin,
that's exactly what I said.
This is like full, like this is, I mean, I know like other religions have head coverings like Islam, like Zoroastrianism has head covering, Jewish women have head coverings, Christian women have head coverings, like religious, but I've never seen a head covering that looks like hijab so closely. Like I've never seen anything. This is basically what the religious. The only difference is that there's something covering their face. It's worse than actually in Iran. Okay, so in Iran, most women don't wear the chador. Like most women wear
the
like.
looks more like this.
Yeah, but look, no, but you see, even her, she has something that is going to fall on her face. You see that thing on top of her head that is supposed to fall to cover her face. How do they walk without falling? Can you click on that picture where all their faces were covered, like that one?
I think that some of that is to cover, perhaps even for the photograph, because I've seen pictures of Iranian women with the same. They'll pull the chador over their face.
No, not really.
I've seen photos like that of so older ones. So, but these women, in a lot of the accounts that I've read, and then there's several videos and, kind of documentaries, investigative reportage. All the women have refused to be, many of them, not all, I should say, many of them refuse to be seen on camera. They also, in several of them, seem to stage some events specifically to show people, look, there's nothing wrong here. We just, do these nice things and we study our religion. And there's been a couple of those that seemed staged. They brought people in, look at, here's what we teach the girls. One of them was in Quebec, making sure that people knew they were getting secular education. But it seems pretty apparent it was staged for the benefit of the reporters.
All right, I want to. How do you? Yeah, okay. Here. Let me actually show you guys this. Can you go back to my screen?
Here you go.
There we go. Okay, so in Iran, this is the way that non-religious women wear their hijab, and this is the way religious women wear their hijab. Okay, so and yeah, they're both hijab. The people say like, "Oh no, this is hijab. This is not hijab." No, hijab is an
No.
umbrella term for all of them. People like, "Oh no, we don't understand." Like, no, you don't understand. Anyways, they're both hijab. This is a more like some person that is putting her hijab on reluctantly and is trying to make it the hijab as invisible as possible. Oh, look at her. She's looking at her so judgmentally too. Like, look at you. You're
Look
not
at all
being
that
as
hair showing.
oh my god. So look at it's so judgmental. Anyways, but even the most religious women in Iran, they don't cover their face. They don't cover their face, and yet you go to this ultra orthodox. This is so bizarre. I've never seen it covering
And
like
look
this.
at how young the girls are that have their face covered.
Yeah, but
They're
I've never
tiny.
seen. Can I say something? I'm just saying that I've never seen covering that is so close to the religious covering in Iran. Like, this is my first time seeing this from a Jewish community. The only difference is the part that makes it worse. Again, I'm assuming that these are see-through, or else it would be keeping like, no. Look at her, so sad. Look at this. The girl that is at the front. You know that they're not see-through enough. Yeah, that, because she's like lifting it to look at something. That means that it's not easy to see through it. What a horrible life. This should be. Is this in the United States? This should be child
Some of
abuse.
them.
This should be illegal. This should be
Stay-
illegal. This is child abuse.
They're in the United States. They're in New York. They've been in Quebec. They've been in Ontario. They've been in Guatemala. They apparently got kicked out of Guatemala. The community around them, I think the Jewish community and also the indigenous community, was like, you guys got to go. But what's interesting is there was a photo, and I don't know if it's doctored, and I'm going to try and find it. If I can find it, I don't know if I can, but there's a photo that I saw going around the internet years ago that was the Mellah, the Jewish quarter in I believe a Middle Eastern country. It could have been Eastern Europe, like Sarajevo or someplace like that, where there's women walking down the street wearing similar, that some, according to this photo and the text that went with it, were actually Jews. So I don't know whether that's the case. I have never experienced this, even in my own experiences and my own being around very extreme, Haredis, like even some of the Satmar sect in New York, where the women don't drive and things like that. I've never seen particularly this type, although I did see that photo previously, and again, it looks very much like some of the Persian chador. But the modesty thing for women, which is part of why they even left some of these other Haredi sects, because their concept of modesty is even more extreme. And remember, I said that these girls are wearing this from the age of 3. And what's really interesting,
sorry, look at this baby in the corner. Like, it almost looks like they tried to tie something around this baby's face. I can't tell if she's tangled up in something on
I think she's
her mother's
tangled up. There's no way they're gonna put that. No, I think she's tangled up. There's no way they're gonna put that.
But they do put these on starting at the age of 3. I've seen photographs and videos of very young girls wearing this dark fabric, covering.
All right, Rivka,
what's interesting is the men dress like Eastern European Jews from Poland, like Hasids. But the women wear this very Iranian type garb.
Bring it back, Susanna. I needed to. Rivka, we need to move on, and I wanted to highlight something. Yeah. So look at how horrible this is and what a horrible childhood this is going to be. And look at this idiot in the live chat. born star. Okay, imagine growing up like this. Imagine being covered all the time like this. Imagine all like being able, not being able to choose your clothes, being always black, having your eyesight completely covered, being always in the dark when you're outside, not being able to experience the wind in your hair, sunshine on your skin. And this person is saying it's not child abuse, it's just a piece of cloth. And look at this idiot. Like, it's a piece of clothing, you guys. You're overreacting. Born star, you're a moron. You're a moron of today. Okay, so we're gonna highlight you as a moron for today. It's a piece of cloth. It's not child abuse. It's just a piece of cloth. You can hang somebody with a piece of cloth, right? Just because it's a piece of cloth, that doesn't mean that you can make someone's life miserable with it, you idiot. This is your own personal hell. You carry your jail with you wherever you go. Imagine growing up like this. This is your childhood, and this idiot in the live chat thinks this is not child abuse. Born star, congratulations, you're the idiot of today.
And congratulations to the FBI and all authorities for cracking down on this crazy extremist, child abusing, child Armin, dogmatic totalitarian sect. And I hope the feds rain down even more charges on y'all. And
ditto. I second that.
Yeah.
Yes, me too. Can we clap for the next news? Oh no. No. Okay. Next news.
Next news. 10-year-old Indian boy hit by BJP worker for refusal to chant Jai Shri Ram. So for those of you who are not familiar, Jai Shri Ram is basically like the Hindu nationalist version of Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, this is basically Allahu Akbar of the Hindus, which means Zindabad Ram, I guess, or long live Ram.
Yes.
Which is their god.
Glory to Lord Ram.
Glory to Lord Ram.
So on April 26th, a BJP worker allegedly beat a 10-year-old boy over his refusal to chant Jai Shri Ram at Pulia in Nadia. The young boy, Mahadev Sharma, was admitted to the hospital with multiple injuries. The incident angered residents who attacked the alleged perpetrator, Mahadev Pramanik. The protester raised a blockade demanding Pramanik's arrest. The police began an inquiry and managed to lift the blockade after an hour. According to a witness, the boy was passing by Pramanik's tea stall and was singled out because of his father's recent involvement with the Trinamool Congress. When he refused to chant Jai Shri Ram, he was beaten badly and suffered injuries to his face, head, and back. After the assault, Pramanik fled the scene. His wife, Mithu Prumalik, the local chief of the BJP's women's wing, said to the press that the boy picked up a stone and threw it at the shop, breaking the glass, which angered her husband. She also stated that Trinamool is using this as an incident to frame them. An official of Santipur police said that they are trying to find out exactly what happened.
Katie is saying something in the live chat. You want to hear?
Yeah, so she's giving some context. So for those who don't know, the Trinamool Congress, or TMC, is the current ruling government of Bengal and the main regional opposition to the BJP. So the background of this is that there was, allegedly the background to this is that this child was targeted because his father opposes the BJP. And so this kid was punished for it.
Okay. Rivka, do you have anything to say?
No, I want to just talk about the absolute sort of this collective punishment. And this is a child. He's not responsible for what his father does. He can't control what his father does. And this, you know, I don't know if it was specifically, you know, targeting that, but it's the guy's wife from the shop is BJP women. So it just seems like it's just so sad. I feel so sorry for this boy that he has to capitulate to this mob or they're going to beat him. It's just really terrible.
Yeah, and more specifically, so, you know, this guy and his wife alleged that the child was bothering them or even like, you know, trying to damage their shop and their property. However, this boy's father says, you know, he was shocked that, you know, his son was attacked basically for his political involvement. And he said, the father said, on the day of the election, BJP workers had been trying to influence voters, which is what I protested against. So it appears they took revenge by attacking my son. So on the other hand, the father is alleging that they basically took retaliation against his anti-BJP protest and took that retaliation and revenge out on his son.
This is insane. Are these things happening more in India, or have they always been there, or are we just getting more reports of it?
It depends on the region, but part of what's significant about this is that, and guys, correct me in the live chat if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that typically in the more recent years, the BJP hasn't had as much power in this particular state, West Bengal, but they are gaining power. And with the election that's coming up, things are, you know, there's a lot of tension.
Do you want to read what Katie's saying?
Katie's saying, yeah, Madhav is another name for Shiva and Sharma is a Brahmin surname. So he despite this, you know, despite being high caste, he was still attacked for opposing the Hindutva.
Well, the Hindutva don't care about caste. They're starting their own caste, which is pro-Hindutva caste and not pro-Hindutva caste, I guess. Yeah. So that's their own caste system. But
and
yeah,
Katie
so
also added, sorry.
No, Hindutva is like political Hinduism, basically. And they want us to congratulate them for being anti-caste system, but they're still tribal, and they're still like, just because you're tribal in a different way than the caste system, that doesn't make you non-tribal. And they are very, very aggressive against the people who are not within their Hindutva tribe. You know, again, don't let Hindutva people tell you that they're anti-caste, because they have made their own caste, which is the Hindutva caste. But yeah, go on.
Katie's also adding the BJP brought goons from other states to Bengal to intimidate people during the elections. Yeah. And the election in Bengal were going on throughout April. Oh, so I said ongoing. I forgot that it's now May. Yes.
Some more comments from India.
Narumi Momose is saying, I've complaints about communists, but I've told RSS/BJP types and Islamists didn't get too far when they ruled Bengal. If true, as a capitalist myself, I'll back the communists.
Here's another one.
Where are those?
Narita, who's saying this?
Narumi is saying again, where are all those Hindus who said we're unique and mocked your limited Abrahamic mindset? They seem to be following Islamists to the last letter.
Not really.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not. No, guys. Just because Hindutva is horrible, that doesn't mean they're the same as the Islamists, right? Things could be bad without it being that bad.
Like, an Islamist is not actually the textbook definition of awful that we like hold everything else against.
Yeah. They're not the same. They're getting closer, slowly, very slowly, but not the same. Not by a.
Katie is saying the guy who coined the term Hindutva in the 1890s was from Bengal, but the residents in his hometown today are anti-Hindutva. And she continues with regarding the election results. The exit polls are not reassuring. BJP will gain a lot of power and might even win. It is really scary for the liberal people here and also the large Muslim population in beef legality.
Yeah, I always said that the Hindutva, their influence in India is growing, and for India, short term, for the future doesn't look bright. Okay, long term, I'm very, very optimistic about India. Short term, I'm very pessimistic about India. Like, India is going to go through a phase of anti-secularism, stronger Hindutva, more powerful BJP, more Hindu nationalism. But long term, very long term, I'm hopeful for India. I think India, once the current generation Z replaces the boomers, which is going to be a long time from now, I think that we're going to see a major shift. But yeah, short term, things are getting worse and worse. Oh wow, people be saying next year there are elections in Andhra Pradesh. That's going to be horrible. We're going to see what the we're going to have to,
we are about to have a spicy news cycle, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, Katie is actually saying, well, long term, I'm optimistic about the world itself. Short term, India is screwed. Yes, India won't be going any. So Narumi is saying India won't be going anywhere in the next 20 years. That country will have a long way to go unless. No, guys, India is going to still progress economically, technologically. There's still going to be things that are going to improve in India, even though when it comes to secularism and human rights and politics, things are going to be worse, maybe in the short term. Not everything. Don't try to paint a worse picture than it actually is. India is going to become an economic superpower. And in fact, one reason why long-term India is going to have better human rights is because when people make more money, they demand more rights. Okay, so there's two forces that is going to make India's long-term future really good. One is Generation Z's view on politics and religion and secularism. But another aspect is that even in the short term, India is going to economically and technologically become stronger. And the impact of that short term is that the more people you have that they have their food and housing and clothing taken care of, the more they're going to go shift their demands into rights and freedoms and stuff like that, right? You're going to see that shift happening, and that in the long term is going to also have a positive impact on human rights in India, right?
Well, I'm also very curious to see how the reaction and fallout from the how bad the handling of the disease that's going around that we can't talk about much because of the YouTube algorithm. Anyways, I'm very curious to see how the reaction from that is going to affect the Modi government, because it's not looking good right now.
It will have, you just have to do some fear mongering about Muslims and Pakistan, and then you're set, right? Every time the economy is not doing as good as you want, or some people have some complaints, just go like this, Modi, just go like this. The Muslims are gonna get you. Muslims are gonna get you. Muslims are coming. Look under your bed. Muslims are gonna get you. And then you get all the votes. Right? That's the all right. Okay. All right. Cool. Rivka, you said something?
I said the moose lambs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't do that. YouTube is gonna think we're Anyway. Yeah. But that's funny. All right. Can we clap for the next news?
No.
What the hell?
Sorry, guys.
Next news.
Pakistani Taliban claim deadly blast at hotel hosting Chinese ambassador. On April 22nd, a deadly bomb blast occurred at a luxury hotel hosting the Chinese ambassador in Pakistan, killing 5 people. The Pakistani Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack. The bomb was placed in a car parked at the Serena Hotel and detonated late on April 21st in Quetta, the capital of the Baluchistan province. Police announced the blast came from an improvised explosive device, and security officials and hotel staff were among those killed. China's foreign ministry spokesman, Wang Wenbin, described the blast as a terrorist attack. I'm using coded language for YouTube. Gu Wenliang, a agriculture commissioner at China's embassy in Pakistan, told a Chinese newspaper that the bomb had detonated 10 minutes prior to their expected return. A spokesperson for Tehrik Taliban Pakistan said that the suicide bombing
boom
again coded language for YouTube hit the security officials precisely as planned. The Prime Minister Imran Khan stated via Twitter that the Pakistani government would not allow the TTP, aka the Tehrik Taliban Pakistan, to reemerge in the region.
Did you mention what the motivation behind the attack was?
Well, what's interesting is that according to this spokesperson for the TTP, they said that they claimed that the boom hit the security officials precisely as planned. Meanwhile, the Chinese ambassador and their aides, etc., were supposed to be like approaching at the time. So, but the statement saying that, it happened as planned made it seem as if their target wasn't the Chinese ambassador.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not everything goes as planned. Maybe you're just bragging about the attack. By the way, the Taliban in Pakistan is quite different from the Taliban in Afghanistan, right? I mean, they're connected, of course, but they operate differently. And this is really... I've been getting a lot of people from Pakistan telling us that the situation is really bad in Pakistan because if the Taliban goes between Afghanistan and Pakistan as if there's no border, and the thing is that there is a lot of numbers for recruitment and support in Pakistan for the Taliban. Like, every time we tell you that, we show you the numbers of people that come out when one of these radicals in Pakistan is killed or does something crazy. Like, the amount of support for the most radical versions of Islamic attacks like this, you have the numbers of people who support this in Pakistan. Even though they're a minority, they're still a huge number. Like, it's a huge number, right? And if the thing is that we're talking about a country with nuclear weapons, that even the military, which we used to think like Pakistan's military is a source for stability, no matter how crazy and barbaric Pakistan's military is, at least it keeps in check these like radicals. But we're now seeing more and more the numbers of these people in Pakistan are so high that we don't even know now if the military is intimidated by them or not. Like, we know the government itself is completely a joke. Like, it's either the powers that be are either these Islamists or it's the military. Like, people often say, like, every other countries have a military. In Pakistan, we have a military that has a country. Like, the military is the one that is running the show. But in recent years, we actually have seen that even the military is kind of intimidated by the Islamists. So the thing is that if these people, like whenever they want something, they have the numbers to come and really pressure something, right? And if in this, Pakistan is a country that we cannot afford for it to be fragile. You know, they have nuclear weapons, and if it ever even comes remotely close to breaking apart, we know who are the people that are going to be on top, like going to come on top. It's going to be the Taliban sympathizers. I mean, imagine how crazy it is that the Taliban in Afghanistan has managed to be very successful at staying in power because they had their own Taliban across the border in Pakistan, that they could always go back to Pakistan whenever they were in danger, come back to Afghanistan. And now that the United States is leaving Afghanistan and Taliban is going to come take over, that role that Pakistan played for Taliban in Afghanistan, now Afghanistan can play that role for Taliban in Pakistan. So now you have a base where, like imagine two people are fighting with each other, but one of them always has a place to go back to and you can't touch them, right? That's going to give them a huge advantage over whatever anti-radical, again, I'm not going to say the T word, any anti-radical efforts in Pakistan. It's going to be very hard now that Taliban is going to be in power in Afghanistan. And the situation is just perfect for Taliban now Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, let's go for a second country. Let's take Pakistan, right? It does look that they have the numbers to be able to at least make it a plausible risk, and it's scary to think like Afghanistan doesn't have nuclear weapons. Imagine, I mean, to make it a little bit less scary, there's no way the international community is going to let a country with nuclear weapons to fall into Taliban. So there's that. But anyways, both of you want to speak. Who wants to go first?
Rivka, go first.
So a couple things. So you were talking about this porous nature of the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan for Taliban to move back and forth. I know that the army had declared the border region militant free back in 2018, but that is absolutely not the case. It's still a lot of this porous nature. And I just wanted to say a couple things about this attack with particular against China. I was looking at some previous reports 2 weeks ago when it actually happened. There was discussion that the Pakistani Taliban had said that their targets were police and other people at this luxury hotel, which could have a Western connotation. But then there's also this, because I was kind of researching this a little bit. I know that there's separatists and other people in the region who claim and have been claiming that China is exploiting Baluchistan for gas and mineral wealth. And then there was an attack at a hotel, which was a project funded by China. And there was also another Baluch Liberation Army attack at a school funded by China. I always want to say because the Hebrew makes me want to say that. But yeah, so my point in saying that is there's been this underlying frustration or talk or alleged blame on China for exploitation, for, not returning some of the wealth to the people in the area. So it's hard to separate. I don't know. And I'm not seeing whether it's for sure, because even on one of the reports, they're saying that they never mentioned China in their taking responsibility statement. Back to what you were saying, it's possible maybe they weren't, or maybe it doesn't matter to them. Like they get mileage out of it either way. Whether you think it's the government and the Western style hoteliers who are doing this, or whether you think it's the focused on the Chinese ambassadors, it's as if the terrorists, they're getting mileage from it no matter what, either way for them.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to provide a little bit more detail on what Rivka was saying. So since August of 2018, there have been several terrorist attacks against Chinese people in Pakistan. These include the 2018 attack against the Chinese Consulate General in Karachi and the 2020 attack against the Pakistan Stock Exchange, both by the Baluchistan Liberation Army. And so, as background, Chinese companies partially own the Pakistan Stock Exchange. And although Pakistan has been fighting extremism in a decade-long fight, analysts warn that it has yet to tackle the root causes of extremism. Billions of dollars of Chinese money flowing into the region through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, is a crucial part of China's Belt and Road Initiative and has fueled resentment among the locals. They said that it gives little benefits as most of the jobs go to outsiders. So I just wanted to provide that as maybe some potential influence as what went into this.
Wait, so what's the relationship between the Baluchi separatist movements and the Taliban exactly?
That's what's not very clear to me.
Is the Taliban trying to tell the Baluchi separatist movements that the only way that they could get what they wish is through the Taliban?
I don't know, because the previous two attacks that I mentioned happened.
I think they're independent, separate groups for separate reasons.
Yes, but here's the connection. So the previous two attacks were claimed by the Baluchistan Liberation Army, and then this current attack happened in the Baluch region.
Yeah, so they might be completely separate. Actually, Marcia in the live chat is saying what terrorism, again, we're not saying this because of YouTube algorithm, front is not religious based. Is there any?
Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Many.
Yeah, there's many. In fact, if the Baluchi separatist movement that we're just discussing right now, they're not religiously motivated. They're just a separatist movement, right?
Armin, but to your point about are they separate entities? I think so, but I think that to the degree that you can hijack someone else's agenda for your own purpose, and that's what I meant about, this Taliban group may find it beneficial for people to believe whatever they want, whether they're blaming China, whether they're blaming the government, and vice versa. The Baluch people might find it to their, political advantage if people think it's China. Oh, look, these guys are on our side too. So whether the fact that they're separate, but maybe they have common cause.
We don't know though.
Or maybe the Taliban might just appreciate the level of instability that the Baluchistan insurgency provides, because it's one of the longest ongoing insurgencies in the world, I believe. They could. I believe. I
think you're right too, Susanna. I think
we don't know, guys. These are pure speculation.
We're just talking political motivations. I think you're right, though, that a lot of that instability allows all kinds of stuff to thrive, and that instability allows them perhaps to come in and take over, which is very similar to the situation in Afghanistan. There was so much internal fighting. They come in and then provide supposed security and quiet everything down in the chaos.
That's not always the case, though, because sometimes if you're not the source of the instability, then the resources goes to your competitor. You know what I mean? If some the people that are trying to create instability, sometimes they're trying to show that you are the main. You're the one that's causing it, and if some other brand comes and causes that, then they might be taking resources away from you. So for example, we also see in these regions, ISIS is present here, and they're a source of instability, and yet Taliban and ISIS don't see eye to eye at all, and they fight each other sometimes, right? So if they're both a source of, Taliban right now is not doesn't want instability anymore. Right? Taliban, they still want it, but at some point, once they still want it to some extent until the United States leaves, but there's a limit to the level of instability they want. This is their country that they're going to inherit in Afghanistan, for example, right? Maybe they want more instability right now in Pakistan than they want in Afghanistan. But again, depends on the region, depends on the motivation, depends on the messaging, depends. Sometimes they do attacks, they take credit for it, and sometimes they don't. And there's always a strategic reason behind it. Sometimes, so it gets really complicated. There's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes, conversations that are happening. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, even though, like, even ISIS, like I said, ISIS and Taliban go to war with each other, but I'm sure they also talk to each other over some things that they could work with each other. It gets really messy and complicated, right? So, and I have no idea how the Baluchi separatist movement entered this equation at all. So I don't know. Like, there's the factors are so huge. Anyways, Narumi is saying, isn't the Baluch separatist movement dead ever since China? No, it's not dead. Oh my God, you can see them. They're all over my DMs, man. Do you guys get messages from Baluchi separatists on Facebook?
No.
Asking you to, like, advocate for their cause? God damn it, I get spammed by them. Ever since China took over that region back in the mid 2000s and developed it, it's gone the way. No, it has not. It's very much alive and kicking and trying to. No. I know that it's not dead. I know that much, at least. Anyways. Yeah, actually, the separatist movements, even if they don't see eye to eye with any of these groups, they always get excited when the government seems weaker. It doesn't matter what the cause is, right? So, for example, when the Shah fell in Iran, the Kurds were like, this is our time, we're going to separate from the rest of the country, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they are ideologically in agreement with the people who toppled the government. They're just happy to see the government get weaker. So the Baluchi separatist movement, they're always like sitting there and they're like watching and like, the military seems weak in Pakistan. Or like, it doesn't, so if the Taliban is doing that, it doesn't really matter. They don't see eye to eye with Taliban, but if they could do that, the Baluchis were like, this is our shot, this is our chance. Anyways, but they always come out disappointed. Can we clap for the next news?
No.
Okay. Okay, maybe the last news. Yeah, the last news. Okay. Next news.
Algerian academic gets 3 years in jail for offending Islam. Syed Jabal Kur, tough name, an Algerian scholar on Islam, was given a 3-year prison sentence on April 22nd for offending Islam. He pledged to appeal and fight for freedom of thought. 7 lawyers and a fellow academic made complaints against him because he called for, quote, reflection on Islam's founding manuscripts. Jabal Kur was released on bail. His lawyer, Mohamed Hadi, expressed that the case is baseless. The offense Jabal Kur was convicted of can be punished by up to 5 years in prison. During his trial in April, Jabal Kur defended himself, arguing that he had only provided, quote, academic reflections. He mentioned that the traditional readings of the Quran no longer meet the expectation, needs, and questions of modern man. He added that the Salafists want to impose on Muslims their reading of texts as being the absolute truth, which he contests in his writings. Jabal Kur's lawyers warned against the trial serving as a launchpad for courts becoming an arena for religious debates. Opponents, however, blame him for disrespecting the Holy Quran and the 5 pillars of Islam, including the yearly Hajj pilgrimage.
I thought Algeria was getting better with all of this. Rivka, you want to say something?
So there's a couple things. So one of the things that this academic is saying too is he's trying to make a distinction between what he considers religion and what he considers history, and people are getting bent about it. So some of these academics and lawyers who complained against him said everything in the Quran is history with a capital H, so to speak. Like, there is no difference. But he is attempting to say, like, look, there is. And so one of the things that he got in trouble for was he drew this comparison between the Eid sacrifice of the sheep and the Berber New Year, which was predating Islam, and so just the discussion of this historical aspects of the country.
Historical pagan aspects.
Right. Not just, but pagan aspects. It is getting him in trouble because they're telling him, like, no, everything in the Quran is actual history, which is very similar to a lot of the evangelicals in the United States, that's the real history, in the Bible. And he also is saying that, he's not an imam, he's a professor. And so, that's more of his trying to say, like, look, I'm putting religion here and I'm talking about history, that they're separate things. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he was really trying to make that distinction, but it's not going for a lot of the people. They're trying to blur that distinction that he's making. And, Algeria has this 144 penal code, which they've used to crack down on dissent and protest. And that's actually what they, are using to sentence this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say to people who say that maybe you should be more polite, maybe criticize Islam in a non-offensive way, all right? Well, this guy tried that, and he got a 3-year jail sentence, right? Like, it doesn't really matter to some of these people how you criticize Islam. The mere audacity to even try look at Islam in an objective way.
Like, his analysis.
Right. Offensive. 3-year jail sentence. Like, this is not like somebody that comes out and says, like, swears at Muhammad, rips at the Quran like we did. No, right? This is guy like, hey, guys, I know you guys have your religion. I just want to analyze this objectively from an academic perspective. Offensive 3-year sentence.
He's a specialist on Sufi Islam, an academic, and people are criticizing him because he does not, or he got in trouble because he is not taking the Quran itself as a historical document. That's what that's what they expect of him.
Right. And I would like to point out too also that this law that he's being charged under, it was apparently a 1990 law. Okay. So this is not something that's been going back, hundreds of years. This is very new.
Right. And guys, this is an actual Islamic scholar, right? Like from academia, because usually when a lot of traditionalist Muslims tell you Islamic scholar, I always do the scholar in air quotes, because they just like, they're scholar in a way that somebody believes in witchcraft and thinks that they're studying spells on how to do the best spells, that the way that those people are scholars, like maybe in Hogwarts, right? So when you hear Islamic scholar, you have to be skeptical. What do you mean Islamic scholar? Are you talking about people that went to theologians? They're referring mostly to theologians that are taking Islam actually seriously as a religion, right? The word scholars should not be wasted on those people, right? So when Muslims tell you like, oh, we don't know, refer to an Islamic scholar, they're not actually using scholar in the proper way, right? This guy is an actual Islamic scholar. These are the people who are studying Islam from an academic, from an objective, from a historical perspective, right? Not looking at it, analyzing it, not in the sense of, oh, this is a true religion. No, they're analyzing it about the history of it, the archaeological evidence, studying the script, the evolution of the religion, the background context of cultures that influence, and the philosophies that impact the ideas, regardless of their own personal belief. And in fact, you don't even have to be a non-Muslim to be able to do this. There are many, it's amazing. Like, yeah, I'm more skeptical when a Muslim or a Christian isn't actually studying the Bible or the Quran or Islam or Christianity from an academic perspective, because it's hard to imagine that their own religion is not influencing their bias. However, to be fair to them, a lot of Muslim and Christian scholars, like, so I'm not saying that this whole scholarship can be done only by non-Muslims or non-Christians. No. The academic institutions that are not Islamic institutions they have enough. The metric and the standards are pretty high for you not to be able to get away with actually publishing something and having it reviewed if it doesn't meet the standards, right?
You mean they have checks and balances?
They have checks and balances, right? So you could be even a Muslim or that is an actual Islamic scholar that is like putting your belief in the back seat while looking at Islam and its history from an objective perspective, right? But again, these are not the theologians, like the people who go study in, Islamic schools in Medina or in Al Zahra University or in Qom or in Najaf. Those people are jokes. Every time you say Islamic scholar for those people, make sure you use the air quotes because they are not actual scholars. By the way, did this guy was he making a statement by actually taking a risk? Like, was that part of his motivation to doing that? Like, he knew the consequences to this, but he's not just making an academic statement. He's also trying to make a for pro-seculars pro-free speech statement by putting this out there. Was that his motivation? Rivka, you want to say?
He said that he was surprised and shocked at the severity of the...
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But so he also is talking about how, that he just wants to fight for freedom of conscience. It's non-negotiable. It has to continue. So there is some level of that, of what you're saying. But I just wanted to point out, so this law that protects Islam from defamation, it doesn't just talk about the prophets or the gods. It talks about other prophets, other messengers. So if you were to insult, say, Miriam or, Moses, even, and then it also says that the precepts of the religion are protected by this law, whether that you're doing it through writing, through drawing, declaration, or any other way. So anything you say or do or draw or, create art, anything that if in any way at all goes, supposedly offends the precepts or any prophet or any messenger. So that, according to, these people who are bringing these charges, just examining it from an academic perspective could be considered some sort of affront to the precepts, because they're saying it's just history and that's the way it is, accept it, Yeah,
I mean, and to highlight something Rivka was saying, like, it to my knowledge, it didn't seem like, he really started out with this as his cause, but now that he's been faced with this, he's very clear and firm about, he's like, no, this is about freedom of thought. Like, I have to be able to say this, like, and I'm going to continue to fight to say it. So it seems like something that he's taken up.
Right. So two things. First of all, D is saying, I have lost hope mythology is winning. D, your methodology of trying to figure out trends is extremely flawed. If you're using one-off stories to figure out who's winning and who's losing over long term, like then you have to completely go and reevaluate how you judge about global trends. Like, you're looking at this story and you're saying you lost hope. Very flawed methodology. Go and try to improve on that. And another thing is that if somebody is listening to the story and they think that Oh wow! Why did he say that? This is what he is. He lives in an Islamic country, and he's surprised that this happened to him. Well, then you're an idiot, because I'm pretty sure that he understands the risks. He in his country, maybe he could assess it a little bit better than you, probably, maybe not, right? But again, I think that if you're not surprised, maybe you're ignorant about Algeria. Just because in a country is Islamic, that doesn't mean that stuff like this is definitely going to happen. Like, I think the people who know more about Algeria, this would be shocking to them. I think maybe I'm wrong, right? But I'm just saying, like, if you think like, oh, Islamic country, this is obviously the result, then you have a very simplistic way of evaluating what is surprising and what's not. The being surprised, and again, my view on Algeria is that, again, which is not very detailed, but my assumption was that this is not something that is common in Algeria to happen, and his surprise of how harsh the sentence was is justified. Like, it's justified that he's surprised. Rivka?
So this has happened before. There was someone in 2020 who had a 10-year prison sentence and a fine. His name was Yassine Mebarki, for charges he supposedly offended the Prophet, and because apparently they found a Quran in his house that was ripped.
Oh, we covered that story.
Yeah, we covered that story.
And then there was another one in 2016 who was a Christian convert, got 3 years in prison for Facebook posts supposedly criticizing religious ideas. So it has
how many years?
3.
Right. So
it has some precedent, but it's not something that you hear about like in Pakistan, like, every day, every week,
And those were more direct, intentional offense. Like, I think like what is surprising about this is that this professor, right? Am I saying it right? Or is he a professor? Yes.
Well, he's an academic. I'm not sure.
He's a scholar. This scholar, like, he's specifically, like, it was so obviously not intended for offense. You know what I mean? Like those other situations in Algeria where they got like reactions. One of them was ripping at the Quran. The other one like made a Facebook post, was like directly confrontational. This guy was like, yeah, I'm academically analyzing this in a very objective and non-offensive way. So I think like maybe there wasn't a precedent for something like this to get such a harsh sentence in Algeria. Maybe that's why he found it surprising. Do you think that's fair, Rivka?
Well, except for the recent story of Yassine, I can't remember his name. That wasn't intentional. The reporting that I read on it made it seem like he was framed for other anti-government protesting that he was done. They went into his house, found a Quran that they deemed to be damaged, and presumably put it on him, whereas other sources that I read said that it was actually just a really old copy of the Quran from his father. So it's not that he was just tearing apart the pages, and he wasn't. Even if that was the case, it's not like he was doing it publicly. It would have been in private in his home. They just found a damaged Quran.
Yeah, we don't want to get too much into detail, but that just means that doesn't set a precedent for this one.
Well, I just wanted to bring up the point that you asked, and I said, he honestly may have been surprised by this because he is an Islamic scholar. He does study certain, sects of Islam. He's looking at it from an academic perspective. I think that maybe that surprised him, that perhaps he thought that talking about the history, or as you were saying, the evolution of the religion itself was not the same as maybe saying defamatory things or Facebook posts, or, that because he's an academic, that maybe that gave him some veneer of protection, and apparently it does not.
Yeah. So yeah, very good point. But what I'm saying is that his surprise is justifiable, regardless of some idiots thinking that, oh no, it's an Islamic country, he should not be surprised. I think his surprise is justified. You want to read this before we go to the next news?
No, that'll send us down another rabbit hole.
Okay, no. All right. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes.
Next news.
Next news. Atheist activist Zara K speaks out for the first time since her arrest in Tanzania.
Woo! Yay!
Yay, Zara K. And you know, a lot of you guys have been asking a lot of questions about what happened to her while she was in Tanzania, and now she's giving more details about it publicly. So Zara K, Tanzanian Australian, is known for her work as an ex-Muslim and atheist activist. Kay recently spoke publicly for the first time about how the Tanzanian police were paid bribes by her former Muslim community to arrest her and have her raped in jail in retaliation for her anti-Islam activism. And some background. She grew up within the Shia Ithna Shari Jamaat community, which is a global Shia Muslim community. After leaving Tanzania and gaining Australian citizenship, she started the foundation Faithless Hijabi, which helps Muslim women who want to leave Islam. In February 2020, Zara flew to Tanzania for a family emergency, and due to the global event, again, coded language for the YouTube algorithm, she extended her stay. On December 28th, she was called into the police station. While in custody, she was verbally harassed by officers and awoken to police groping her until she screamed until other detainees reacted. Quote, leaders from my formal community actually paid a bribe to imprison me for a few nights, and that's why my bail wasn't processed. And they were also paid to rape me in jail, she says. Zara and a representative of her legal team also spoke about the lack of support they received from the Australian government throughout her ordeal.
Okay, well, if this is true, it's insane. Just for the record, just because we're friends with Arak, we're not gonna ever act like any that any story is 100% true. So we're gonna treat everything as skeptically as possible, as we should. So, but everything here, if it's that is alleged, if it's true, I mean, the part that we know is true is the embarrassing way that Australia treated the situation without much of a support. Unless, even that actually we're not sure, unless they were trying to do something in the background that we're not aware of, right? Sometimes maybe they don't, governments do something. But if everything is as it seems, then the Australian government failed one of their citizens and devalued the meaning of being an Australian citizen when one of their own citizens was in trouble outside of the borders, and they didn't come to her rescue, which is really embarrassing for the Australian government. And the Australian government needs to be called out for this until they tell us maybe if something else was happening behind the background that we're not aware of, right? But again, so guys, I know it's easy for us to just accept stories without skepticism, but especially when it happens to one of our friends. However, always treat it like, like if this is, put an if, and treat things with skepticism, even when your tribalism might want to, tempts you to do otherwise. But again, if this is all true, what a horrible experience. This is crazy. That's crazy. Do you guys have any comments on this? Well, look at the last.
Yes, so this is a really good article. These are the first times she's spoken to the press since she got back home in Australia. So guys, she's okay, she's safe now, if you didn't know that. So she spoke to the Sydney Morning Herald, and this article that we're highlighting is from SBS News, and it's very detailed. And I encourage you guys to go read the full article, which is linked in the description. And the article did a really good job of highlighting how she has been approaching her government since before she was even detained, about her concerns for her safety. So very soon after she arrived, she was getting threats all over social media from her previous community, and she was documenting them, and many of them were, politically motivated or motivated by her activism. And she was documenting this and even approached the nearest consulate or embassy that represents Australia. Isn't actually in Tanzania, it's in Nairobi in Kenya. So a lot of her correspondence, she was reaching out to that consulate instead and saying like, hey guys, like I want you to be aware of this. I'm getting threats in this country. Like, what do you think I should do? And they basically were just like, oh, thanks for letting us know, but like didn't really provide her any more help. And so then when she was arrested and when there was this huge ordeal, she got so desperate that she actually started contacting the embassies of other countries trying to seek assistance. She spoke about how she started reaching out to the German embassy because she's like, I might need asylum and I don't know how to proceed. But I'm an Australian here stuck in Tanzania. Wow. And so, and then the DFAT, which is the Department for, I can't remember what it means. It's Foreign Affairs and Trade, which is the relevant authority in the Australian government, says that its consular staff around the world are not able to provide legal advice or intervene in legal proceedings, but can put an Australian detained in their region in touch with local lawyers. They also make visits, check in on a citizen's well-being, and issue replacement passports. I consider myself lucky having an Australian passport, but at the same time, the consulate should have provided more support. They should have acted faster when they first knew about the arrest, Zara said. And Zara says that the DFAT only helped her get out of Tanzania once a team of international lawyers got involved in her case. One of them was Australian human rights lawyer Jennifer Robinson. Quote, my colleagues and I from Doughty Street Chambers in London got involved representing Zara because of the horrific ordeal she suffered in Tanzania, including harassment by the authorities, which we believe was a result of her work as an activist and human rights defender, Ms. Robinson says. The charges that were threatened against her were completely unfounded. We believe that the reason the Tanzanian authorities were persecuting her and pursuing her was because of her work and because of her religious views as a woman who has chosen to leave the Islamic faith and assisting others. She was hassled and received numerous incredible death and rape threats when she was in Tanzania and prevented from leaving the country for some time. And then finally, this is what I thought was just like so important. We were concerned when we first got engaged by Zara that the Australian government had dragged their feet on providing her the consular assistance she needed while in Tanzania to ensure her ability to be able to leave the country. And it was only after my meeting with the foreign minister's office that her passport was issued.
Do we have any verifiable evidence beyond Zara's telling everybody, like, does she have anything that she could use as proof that she was sexually harassed, and also that any of this has to do anything with her leaving Islam?
A lot of
verifiable proof.
Well, she said a source told her some of this, according to this article. So I don't know how you would prove that unless the source came forward, which they probably will not do. And even then, that's still at this point hearsay.
Right. So she's not going to be able to push this forward much without any evidence. If she doesn't have it, like, it would just be her word.
I don't know what I can say publicly, so I'm just going to not talk.
Okay.
To be on the side of caution.
Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. By the way, I hope like nobody thinks that I'm suggesting that without proof it means it doesn't happen, right? Without proof, not having proof doesn't mean it didn't happen. Not having proof means that it's going to be hard for you to make anything out of this, like to actually get justice, right? I mean, yeah. So it's unfortunate. If it's just her word, it's if it happened, and if the only thing she has is her words, then it's unfortunate because there's going to be no justice. So
I wanted to just say that. So while a lot of people were saying that they thought the Australian government did not give her enough support, they issued a statement to SBS saying the Australian High Commissioner in Kenya was pleased to provide consular support to Ms. K, including assisting her departure from Tanzania, return to Australia. Owing to our privacy obligations, we will not provide further comment. But the lawyer was saying, you know, if they had taken action earlier, a lot of these things wouldn't have happened. Now they're grateful for ensuring her ability to be able to leave, but it should not have required the instruction of lawyers to obtain that assistance. So what she's saying is, yes, the government did make some overtures on her behalf, but only at the behest of lawyers. So they didn't do it when she contacted them. They didn't do it when they, you know, for any other reason. These lawyers had to sort of light a fire underneath them.
This is a good comment. She may have evidence, but keeping it. So the rabid atheist is saying she may have evidence, but keeping it to herself until trial. That might be a legal recommendation. Yes, that might be the case. Yeah.
Also, like Rivka highlighted, the lawyers have said, had the Australian government taken action earlier, none of this would have happened.
Right.
Also, Zara's legal team made urgent human rights complaints to the UN against Tanzania. Action that Zara plans to continue on her own, seeking to sanction Tanzania over her treatment. And I thought one thing that was really interesting that's highlighted in this article is that Zara talks about how, you know, she, for those who are familiar with her work, she helps people like escape countries where they're persecuted all the time. You know, it's something she's very familiar and passionate about. And she talks about, like, I never thought that I would be the victim because I'm usually the one saving them. Like saving people from persecution, like saving people who are put in these positions because they left their faith. Like I never thought it would be me. I didn't think that I would ever need saving. Rivka?
So also I want to bring up something that is mentioned in this article a couple times, is that Zara's family is still supportive of her. She has a very loving relationship with them. There's photos in the article of her with her family. And I think that's important to highlight because so often people just assume that the families are always going to turn against their children. And that's not the case. And in the article, it says that when she left Tanzania, she says, even my dad and brother said, go give them hell. You know, so her family is supporting her. And this is brought up in the article as well, is that she mentions that she feels like some of the Ex-Shia community are upset that the family is still supporting her. And there were threats against her father, you know, made, according to Zara, made by the police department and other officials saying how they would, you know, create problems for her father as well. So
they threatened her with hurting him.
Yes. So it's interesting because her family is supporting her and is still, and then that also puts them in harm's way as well. So I just wanted to highlight that she is getting some positive and loving support from her family, unlike so many people may make an assumption incorrectly that this is always the case, that the families are, you know, not supportive.
And it wasn't always that way. She had to work hard to get to the place where she is with her family. You
Indeed.
know, and her returning back to Tanzania for the first time since she left, you know, when she was still a minor, was a big deal and a big part of that. And the local community didn't like that. You know, they got upset and tried to bar her from taking her nieces to their school. You know, they didn't like the fact that she was around because she's so outspoken, you know, not a hijabi, a blasphemer at large, and a firecracker, you know. And it's really heartbreaking and disgusting to see, you know, how far some people will go in retaliation.
Marcia is asking, why did she go to this country? Her family, that's her country.
She's from there. She was born
She's
there.
from there. Her family is there. She's going to
And
visit her
it was a
family.
family emergency, and even if it wasn't, she should still be able to go back.
I do want to highlight this. I know I'm going to get in. Okay, so worldwide social media for good is saying, hashtag I believe in women. I'm going to respond by stop treating women like children that need your pandering. God damn it.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. Anyways, is there anything
Yeah, I
else
think
you wanna...
no, I think you're right. I think it's better to say take all women seriously.
Yeah.
Or not even women, just take allegations
all,
of sexual misconduct and abuse seriously, but you don't necessarily believe them.
Exactly. Yeah, take them seriously, investigate every single accusation. Can we clap for the next news?
Yes, because it's last news and Atheist Republic news time.
Next news.
Next news, blasphemous art now animated.
Yes.
So this is something we're very excited about. Well, on our screen here, Armin has a little bit of a preview, but this is just the still image.
Yes. We're animating our art now.
This is one of our favorite and most exciting things that Armin and I have been working on recently. So if you guys are not familiar, we have our illustrated scripture series, which we do at least once a month, where we illustrate, you know, the most absurd, bizarre verses in religious scripture that we can find to help, you know, really demonstrate exactly how bizarre a lot of these, you know, holy texts really are. So, for example, here we have a selection, just a little selection for your enjoyment.
We're not showing you the animated version. We're just showing you what we have animated, because the animation, the animation of this, the uncensored animation of this, is only for our patrons, because I mean, the first animation that we have is a little bit basic, but as we get more patrons, we're going to be able to eventually do like 10 minutes animations of like scriptures in the Quran or Hadith or in the Bible or in Hindu scripture. So we're just getting started. I know the first animation that we have is like for the patrons is pretty basic, but as more people become patrons to watch this animation, it's going to become more advanced. But basically, we took this comic art that we made, and the uncensored version of it is now animated for our patrons, right? Yes. So can you guys see, or do you need to zoom in?
Zoom in a little bit. So this is like I was saying, a choice selection from the Book of Deuteronomy, which we have the comic version of this. We have titled "Ball Grabbing in the Bible." Yes. Because it is what happens to a woman if she grabs the balls of the man her husband is fighting. And let's just say the punishment is quite severe. But I absolutely I am so obsessed with the way that our artist makes these verses comics, because she always adds like her own little like verbiage. She like ad-libs it. So like there's two men fighting, and in the comic you just say that one more time. Your mother punch.
Guys, this is one of the most ridiculous parts of the Bible. Like it's so insane. I think like when it comes to Islamic scripture, the hadith, when it comes to the hand getting pregnant, is the most ridiculous one. I think when it comes to Christianity, it's hard to top this one, right? No, actually, there's one. There's a 200 foreskin verse. No,
But
wait,
that's
actually,
coming out soon.
And this is the Old Testament, so it's not just Christianity; it's Judaism too, because the Old Testament, Deuteronomy, is Old Testament.
Yes. Okay, so look at this. So do you want to go through this? So this, do you want to go through this? Let's Rivka or Susanna, which one of you want to go through this with us?
I can do it.
Okay, go ahead.
If two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out, scroll down, and seizes him by his private parts, you shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity.
Yes. So guys, if you're a patron, the animated version of this is already available to you. And thank you for being a patron, because we're going to make the animations better and better. Eventually, one day, maybe like 50 years from now, we're going to have like movies, like full-on movies based on scripture. Okay, like animated movies. So if we could ever get the resources for that. But I have a question about this part of the Bible, right? This Bible verse.
Wait,
because
Marcia is saying, I'm not going to touch anyone's junk. I can tell you that.
Okay. Let me finish my thought, please. And maybe Rivka, you could help me with this, because my understanding of scripture is when there's a rule, and I've taken like courses on scripture and stuff, and the professor, I remember, mentioned that when there's a law, it doesn't come out from a vacuum. Like, it's a response to something that was an issue that was like happening a lot, that eventually made it to scripture. Okay. And as soon as the professor in that course mentioned that, I was like, this is the verse that came to my mind, because I was thinking, like, what is this a response to? Like, how often were men fighting and their wives would jump in and grab the balls of the man that was attacking their husband? That the people at that time, they were like, okay, there's too much ball grabbing happening in this city. We need to stop women grabbing our balls every time we're trying to fight a man. Like, can a man not have a peaceful fight with another man without having his wife come and grab your balls? So they come up with the rules to chop off the hands of any woman that comes middles in two bros fighting, right? Just let men fight. Just let men fight without having to watch their balls from their other opponent, from the other side's wife, right? Like, it's so unfair. Like, you're winning a fight. Like, have you never been in that situation where you're almost winning and you're almost defeating? Like, you're in a fight, you're almost winning, and all of a sudden you feel this tight grip on your balls from behind. Like, oh my God, the wife enters. Like, 2 against 1. The wife enters the fight. Like, how is it? Like, you know what? I endorse this Bible verse. You know what? I changed my. Rivka, go on.
So there's a couple things at play here. I think one of them is that, the woman is intending to injure the man in such a way that he can't procreate anymore, which is a huge no-no. And then also, there's a verse about castrated men not being allowed to enter the temple. And so it's not just that she's trying to, and the reason stay with me, you see me coming around the corner. So it's not just that she's trying to prevent him from having children, but she's also saying that she doesn't want him to be able to worship, which means he's like a foreigner. So she wants to treat him as someone who's not part of the community. Like, this is some of the discussion people talk about like this. So, and the thing is that there's this, I think, assumption that she's being selfish and she's making a decision outside of God's law. Do you see what I mean? Like she's choosing to protect her husband rather than just or to change the dynamic of what's happening rather than just relying on God. And that's not her place.
But how does her going after the balls prevent him from worshiping?
Okay,
because they talk about the castrated men can't be in the temple. So if you don't have balls, I'm just throwing this out there as to where some of this, because Armin was like, well, what's the context for this? You know, I don't know, but I know that, you know, not having children is, you know, a big problem. Not worshiping means you're like outside of the group, outside of the, you know, tribe, so to speak. You're like a foreigner, you know, and then also taking your own initiative rather than relying on what God's going to do or not do. You know, she's not trusting him. She's doing something and that's not her place. So I'm just guessing at some of these, but this is where I think maybe some of the contextual idea of why is it so severe. So
this is just men trying to protect their balls, okay? Don't blame them. I just want to highlight the funny comment because Narumi wants a cookie. Narumi in the live chat this is the third time she or he posted this because she constantly wants us to congratulate her because this is the third time. Like, I'm a believing Christian, but I don't mind your criticism, mockery of Christianity. It won't affect me personally. Okay, Narumi, do you want a cookie? Do you want a cookie? I mean, you're still a believing Christian, so you need to be embarrassed about that. So, but congratulations for allowing people to criticize Christianity, I guess. Okay, here your medal is being mailed to you as we speak. Okay, but however, I think Narumi is actually butthurt because this is one thing that people do. People are like, you know what, I'm not butthurt, this is not affecting me, but I don't like there's something wrong with your art, because they don't want to look like they're butthurt, but they like, oh no, but what's wrong with the art? Oh, it's just boring. Oh no, I don't like the way it's drawn.
They're like negging. They're
like secretly, they're like butthurt, but they're trying to secretly hide their butthurt and criticize it in a different way. I have seen this so many times. It's very cute. Try. Nice. Okay.
And I just wanted to bring up that there's some also some conflict between scholars about whether it really means cut off her hand, like examining the Hebrew and saying, no, it doesn't. It means, you know, shave the hair of her groin.
What?
Yeah. I'm just telling you what this guy is saying. Is, you know, this is what he's claiming the Hebrew. And then they're also claiming that in Assyria, there was a law for the Assyrians, not the Jews, that a woman's finger is cast to be amputated if she injures a man's testicles. So I don't know if that's true or not, but these are some things that scholars are saying, because I was looking up like how to look at this.
Real scholars?
They're all biblical scholars. So I'm just saying that, because also you have to understand in Judaism, there's a constant arguing back and forth about what is the meaning of this. And some people dedicate their whole lives to one phrase.
Oh my God.
So that might be part of what this is going on to. No, it doesn't mean that. It means this. No, it's actually based on the Assyrian law. No, you know, blah, blah, blah.
I do want to, hold on.
LOL, Armin, did you see this?
Yeah, I know. It's but oh, okay. But like, pour some water on that butt hurt. Hold on. Like, I do want to highlight something here. Here, look at this. Okay, this is a part of the Bible. You know, a lot of people think that the most okay. So here's the thing: the most shocking parts of these things, ridiculous parts of the Bible, is the, you know, the ball grabbing, the hand cutting. But I know most people don't see it my way. I personally find the most ridiculous part of the Bible, many parts of the Bible or the Quran, is this part. This part that most people don't find shocking. This, to me, is the most ridiculous part, okay? Because there's a lot of commandments in the Bible and the Quran when it comes to do this, take this action, don't do this action, like cut off someone's hand, cut off someone's this, penis, head, whatever. But which you could do. But it always amazes me, the commandments to certain emotions in the Quran or in the Bible, as if anybody has any control over that. You know, these are impossible. This is what I'm telling you. The Yahweh, Jesus, and Allah are not just tyrants of your actions. They're tyrants of minds as well. Like, they're trying to dictate what you feel, not just what you do, but also what you feel. When Jesus commands you to love him, as if that is something that is up to be commanded. As like, how? That is not a choice. And this is also an example of that. So from all, like, again, most people, when they see this verse, they're like, what the hell? Ball grabbing, hand cutting, what the hell is this? But the highlight of this verse for me is this last part. Show her no pity. As if you can control that. This is why Yahweh is a tyrant of your mind. He's trying to control how you feel. And imagine that the God of love commanding you to not show pity over cutting the hands of your own wife. Like, the husband himself is commanded by Yahweh to show no pity, watching her hands being amputated. Watching her own wife being amputated. God is commanding you to show no pity. It's amazing.
So I just want to say absolutely 100% Yahweh in the Old Testament is not the God of love. He is not ever really talking about that. He chooses people, but not because he necessarily loves them, because he's elevating them, and their job is to follow the rules that he has set down for them because he has chosen them. Not the love stuff. That's that comes later with hippie Jesus. You know, that was his, big change, and also his blasphemy almost, by talking about it in a different way. Yahweh is not talking about love. Adonai is not talking. I mean, that's not the sense of what's happening in the relationship between the tribes of Israel, the Canaanites, the Jews, and their God. It's not about love. It's about a covenant, which is a set of rules. So it's basically, a contract between God and these people, irrespective of any kind of emotion of love, or, he talks about caring for him as a family, but as a father would, which means you have to be strict sometimes and you have to do things they may not like because it's for their own good, but nothing about love.
Yeah.
I've
read the entire Bible. I couldn't find any love in any part of the Bible. But go on, Susanna.
Yeah, so obviously this is censored because we created some graphic details to really illustrate the point. But if you would like to see the uncensored version of this comic, but also the uncensored version of the full animation,
yeah.
Please become a patron on our Patreon. And to see the animations, what tier do you have to be, Armin?
$5 above.
Okay.
Yeah. So the $1 tier patrons, they get all our blasphemous art, the uncensored version of our art for free, the non-animated one. $5 and above, they will get our animation, and our animation will get. The more patrons go from $1 to $5, the more we're going to be able to afford to make better and better animation. I actually really enjoy the process of making this art, talking to the artists, animating it, going through, discovering what we're going to do next. It's so much fun. So thank you guys for making our work so much more fun.
It's like what me and Armin have the most fun talking about all the time.
Yeah. Anyways, if you have any suggestions for our blasphemous art, the next one that we need to do, let us know in the comment section. If there's any news that we need to cover next week, let us know in the comment section. And make sure you subscribe to our newsletter so you get the free version of our art, the ones with no nudity, but still very nice, very juicy. subscribe to our newsletter. You get that for free. If you're subscribed to our newsletter, you get my book for free, Why There's No God, which is a bestseller on Amazon. You get that for free. And yeah, anything else, Rivka, Suz? We're good to go? Good to
No,
go.
just subscribe.
Subscribe. It's Hikmah,
Oh,
it's kosher, and it's Dharma.
I have one more
Do it.
thing to say. It
What?
is Hikmah, kosher, and Dharma. But also, I know, just shouts out to our viewers and our AR family in India. I know things are really, really rough and severe right now. So, yeah, I'm thinking about you guys and stay safe.
Let's make a blasphemous art where Modi and Yogi are making out. How about that? That's a good one. Yeah, let's do that. Good suggestion, Katie. Yeah, I think that's a good one. All right, let's do
Oh
that.
boy.
All right, guys. See you next week. I mean, no, tomorrow. Bye.